So a question that I keep coming across in my journey to be the next Mr. Rogers or a next Mr. Rogers, what I like to say is continuing the work of Mr. Rogers. Will there ever be a next Mr. Rogers? And actually someone said this in response to my previous video, you can't be the next Mr. Rogers. There's only one Mr. Rogers. There can never be another Mr. Rogers. And look, you're not wrong. The guy spent his entire career telling children that there was only one of them and that they are special. And so obviously it's gonna apply to the guy who's saying it just as much as everyone else. The advice that comes from the Fred Rogers Center is there can never be another Mr. Rogers. You shouldn't even want to do that. You should only want to be you. Be the best version of you that you can be. But I guess, part of it is like this idea that Mr. Rogers was this exceptional guy. But how did he get that way? There seems to be an assumption that he was just a one-time phenomenon, that there can't be anything else other than him because he was like a one-time thing. I don't know. Obviously, I disagree. I think I can continue his work. I am very confident in my ability to do that. And I'm gonna do it my way. And if you look at the videos that I'm making at Mr. Nickel Kids, my other YouTube channel, they're very different from the stuff that Mr. Rogers did. So for me, it's kind of like an ongoing thing, trying new things and then looking back at what he was doing and how he was able to capture children's attention and help children grow and have the impact that he had. I want that same impact on the world. And so that's what I want to do. I want to maximize my impact on the time that I have here on Earth. And I have a certain amount of skills, and I'm going to use those skills to maximize that impact. And I want to be compared to Mr. Rogers because I've looked at his stuff, I've analyzed it. He was a genius, right? He invented his own filmmaking style. Right, his own storytelling style, and he did it at the same level. When I look at great literature, when I look at great music writing, Mr. Rogers competing at the same level. The dude knew what he was doing. He didn't leave an instruction manual. That would have been helpful. I found in my research that he actually tried many times to kind of start a school so that he could educate people to do what he was able to do. He was never able to find the money for that, unfortunately. But I did leave plenty of literature, mostly for parents, but it's basically saying how he views children. He left a lot of his notes as well, which I've looked over at the Fred Rogers Center. And you know what? His show itself is kind of an instruction manual on how to be you. And so I just gotta be me, basically, and I gotta be me to the best of my ability. Another question that comes up, would Mr. Rogers work today? The industry has changed a lot, right? I've talked about that before, how animation is more popular than ever because of international sales. So would Mr. Rogers work today? Like how many stations people have, how connected we are to so many different outlets. I think that the man would be able to figure it out. He was born at that time, so he knew how to finagle that time. If he was born today, he would know how to finagle today. He did a lot of finagling to get where he was, right? And that's what it takes because it's a certain kind of quality. Sometimes high quality things don't get picked up because they're a little risky, right? My show's a little risky from an executive standpoint. That's a risk that I'm willing to take and go all in on, but that's not necessarily a risk that other people want to take. That's fine. I'm gonna make it work and then make them all regret not picking me up. One thing I'm learning about myself is I am resilient. I am unstoppable. I'm an unstoppable force. I haven't been stopped yet, and there's been plenty of reasons to stop. Nothing stopped me. Nothing's gonna stop me. This is basically gonna happen. It's just a matter, all it takes in this day and age is to know how things work and work them. So look, I am not Mr. Rogers, nor am I claiming to be Mr. Rogers. I am continuing the work of Mr. Rogers as Mr. Nickel. And I don't know, I'm having a lot of fun and it's been great hearing from you guys. What are your thoughts on all this? What are your dreams? And you know, I really do believe that you can do whatever you want to do. You just got to put in the time and effort, and you got to get out of your head and you start doing. You got to do it. You know, I'm pursuing the media side of things, but there's a lot of next Mr. Rogers in the world. I think and actually, there's a lot of next Mr. Rogers in media. When you talk about this kind of stuff, you network with people, you find people who are trying to follow the same path. And some people are a few steps ahead of me, some people are a few steps behind me. For 2019, I want to make a showcase video of everyone that I know and think is doing great stuff. Some rising stars to keep an eye on. If you know anyone that is a next Mr. Rogers type, I'm gonna get connected with them. I wanna just spread the word.